Welcome to today's edition of Meeting Local Biz, brought to you by Helen of Homes. I'm Helen Montgomery with West USA Realty, and I have the pleasure today of meeting with Richard Oxford, the brilliant mind behind Scottsdale Tax Group LLC, here in the heart of the Scottsdale Air Park area. We all know what that tax anxiety feels like, right? Well, unlike other tax specialists, Richard has a little bit of a different approach. He has a forward analysis approach rather than a historical reporting sort of approach. And I don't know about you, but to me, that sounds like a great idea. Good morning, Rick.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm wonderful.
I'm excited to be with you here today. And I wondered if you might share with us a little bit about how you came up with the idea of Scottsdale Tax Group and how you got started out here in the Air Park.
Well, this idea came from the fact that I work with a lot of clients on finance, and what I found out was many of them were wasting money on taxes. Okay, now, we all have taxes to pay for the most part, but I would see people who were allowing overtaxation. You only have to pay what you're required to pay and not a penny more. So I thought what we needed was, and by the time I saw it, it was too late to fix for the previous year, right? Back to being proactive.
Right.
So what I figured was I needed some planning, okay? And I started through my previous business, doing the planning, and then it just grew to the point that I had to separate it, right? The advice from, my
Right. So your background is in education and financial planning, is that correct?
Financial planning, right. Mm-hmm. So working with people and their CPAs and their EAs, we were able to do projections about making changes, especially for businesses and, well, self-employed people, like you and me.
Small businesses,
medium businesses. There's a lot of opportunity there that they're missing out on. And that's the genesis of it. I just could see, well, what about this? Well, nobody ever said that. Can we do it? Yeah. Next year.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That makes sense. Okay. So Scottsdale Tax Group LLC must have had its fair share of successes and achievements over the years. Can you highlight a particularly memorable achievement or success that you have felt since you've been in business?
Yeah, we've had several, and taxes are kind of a boring subject, right? Or an anxious, causing anxiety, right?
Right.
But we've had some pretty big successes. There are people who, there are techniques out there that people just don't know about. I'm going to include CPAs even, right? It's just not, perfectly legal methods of reducing taxes. But recently, one of my clients who has been complaining about her CPA, and I'm not her CPA, and I'm not a CPA, by the way, who had been complaining about it, I said, well, let's look at this. Let's make an effort to look at some options here. And she is paying considerable amount of taxes. But after we talked to a couple of the CPAs that I work with, they came back with an offer to save her $600,000 a year in taxes, not reduced profit for her business. A $600,000 reduction in taxes. That's free money, folks, right? Wow. So that's $600,000 you did not pay out at the end of the year.
Right. I bet she was happy about that.
Yeah. Well, business people are different, right? You might be surprised, but yeah, she was mostly angry.
Right. That she had wasted all that money.
Correct.
Right.
The previous year. And, for a growing business, 600 becomes, 650 becomes 750 becomes $1 million in 10 years. A year.
Right.
A year.
Right.
So
Can you share a funny or a memorable interaction that you've had with a client?
I have a lot of funny clients, but no. One of my clients was just pleased as could be that she could, when I told her she could, yes, she could deduct her Louis Vuitton bag because she used it to carry her laptop around in. And, of course, these things need to be proportional to revenue, which it was, but it was perfectly legitimate. And, most people don't think of things like that because, those are very expensive. And
I would imagine you need to get to know your clients pretty well to know their business and know, like, how would you even know that she had a Louis Vuitton bag that could potentially be used? I mean, obviously she asked you, but knowing the
no, you
client-
wouldn't know. But I do quite often. I have people say, "Can I deduct this? Can I deduct that? Can I deduct this? Can I deduct that?" And sometimes I have to say, "No, that was personal consumption. You can't deduct the personal consumption portion of." I'm thinking of one specific incident, but other times it's after I get to know the business, and I've run several businesses myself, so I'm pretty familiar. But after I get to know the business, I direct questions more at them. Are you deducting this?
Right.
Has anyone asked you this? And so many people they're afraid of this home office deduction. If you're using it for home office, deduct it because you're owed that.
Right.
Okay? That's even if you go into your office, which I'm sure you do, and I do. I have a home office too, where I spend time working and, weekends and evenings. And that's what it's for. And it has its own set of file cabinets and it has its own desk with, a separate computer. So all of that was deductible. Okay. And people are afraid because they think that that's a point that the IRS is going to look and audit you. You're not going to get audited unless you're really cheating. Just
Right.
face the fact. It's
Good,
just not going to happen.
good to know.
Yeah, don't cheat.
So the tax industry is ever evolving. There are always changes happening, and so are the needs of our community out here in North Scottsdale. How has Scottsdale Tax Group LLC adapted to the changing demands of your clients and the local business scene out here?
I work with a lot of experts in different aspects of tax law, and it's constantly changing. Through those experts, I learned the latest in real estate or business sale. Okay, and I learned options about that. And basically, it's just education. You could ask that same question to your doctor, right?
True.
How do you stay abreast? And it's just education. So with a doctor who my brother-in-law is works for a large drug company, and they go visit the doctors. Well, the only way the doctor can stay abreast of all of this stuff is the same way I do. These people call me and said, "Have you heard about this? We have," and then I set on a seminar, or I set in person, or I invite them into my office, and we learn these new techniques. Plus you have to stay on top of the IRS letter rulings and all. It's a lot.
I can imagine.
Okay, and you just do your best. Okay, because I have good contacts in tax law, CPAs and stuff like that, and we communicate, and I'm able to do these things. I can stay pretty much on top of it. Sometimes I run into an unusual case, and I'll make several calls, and somebody will go, "Well, this might work," but none of it works unless the taxpayer is willing to do that. And sometimes they're intimidated. Well, I've never heard of that. Well,
Right. Sounds
is
like,
what it
well,
is.
communication, like in my business as well, it's really important. And networking, communicating and networking, and
You
just
have to.
constantly stay ahead of the game so that we can serve our clients and make sure that they're getting the very best possible. And I'm sure like me, if you don't know, you have a network of people you can go to find out.
Precisely. And that's all you can do, because no one person can know everything.
Right.
Your CPA does not know everything. Your EA enrolled agent who does most of the taxes doesn't know everything, okay? And sometimes we bring them. And I actually, a few years ago, brought up a group of CPAs together, in a room like this, a little bigger, and had a presentation on a specific topic. And only one of them actually had heard of it. Well, two or three had heard of it and had negative impressions because they didn't know.
Right.
Right? When you do something wrong, you stand the chance of audit. If you do it right, you're fine.
Right.
Okay? So it's about networking or heading in the right direction and bringing those people, the correct people in to do it right one time, and you don't have a problem.
Sure. So what I know you mentioned the Louis Vuitton bag, which most people would probably be surprised about, but what is the most unusual or surprising deduction that a client has ever asked you if they could put on their tax return?
It wasn't they asked, it was that back to the drilling down, I asked enough questions and found out. But it had to do with a client of mine who's relatively small, young gal, who's the son of a rancher. And you and I talked about this before, who owns a big ranch, okay? And, like most ranches, it's a lot of open area with a few cows on it, right? And a few horses. Well, she had 2 cows and said, can I deduct this? I said, are they your pets or are they, for economic reasons? She said, no, I plan to raise calves and grow calves and go to the auction. I said, okay. And she said, what expenses can I take against this? I says, well, it's ranch. And this is just my mind spinning. It turned out to be true. Her horse, we can take her horse. And so we wrote off the whole horse, okay? Which she already owned.
Because she needs the horse.
Because she needs the horse. Because literally, this is not Arizona where they're all in a pen somewhere. No, they're on a ranch, right? It's miles. So she needed a horse, which she needed a saddle, which she needed tack, which she had that. But she had 2 horses. I said, why do you have 2 horses? Well, I can't ride the same one every day because it just wears them out.
Wow.
But
that's good for all my. I actually have some ranch friends.
But
I'll have to share that with them.
It was just that was unusual. It was kind of interesting because I actually had to do some inquiry to find out how far we could go. And I say a couple. She probably had 6 or 7 head, and I think she's up to like 30 now, right? I mean, she's growing her own ranch, leases from her dad. So it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that is nice. As a leader in the tax industry, you must have faced numerous challenges over the years, I'm sure, while you're building Scottsdale Tax Group LLC. Can you share a challenge that you have come up against and then maybe how you resolved it?
The challenges are many because as I talk to people, there are planning techniques or financial techniques that you might use that will work, okay? And part of it is getting past the mental aspect of it with the person we're talking to, that I can't do that or it won't work. But I've had a couple of them that actually went away in the process. Now, the people who were vested, and that's the big challenge. Now they're panicked. Well, I did that. Well, it was legal when you did it, and 3 years later, they've taken that deduction away.
Oh my.
Okay, but you're still good for 2015, right? You're still good. In 16, you're still good. And so that's sort of a challenge because some of these things, just last year, a particular method went away, right? The Congress rewrote the law because they had given too much away. That's effectively what happened, right? That they had given too much away and people had figured it out and were using it. And like many things in my business, when I see an opportunity, I leap on the opportunity for as long as it works.
Right.
Okay. So the challenge is figuring out which ones, once you drill down and see proof that it's legal, and like maybe somebody isn't going to be audited, like it's not an automatic audit sort of situation.
Right.
And to use that for as long as possible.
Right.
And, a lot of times that's business owners in particular and higher net worth people. That's where the opportunity is, right? If you're making $100,000 a year, you have less opportunity than if you're making $400,000 a year, right? Same for a business, right? A business that's making, less money and still in the growth phase just doesn't have those opportunities. Now, there are deductions they should be taking,
Right.
but these other opportunities are on a grander scale, right? That might require you to pull money out of your company to do something.
Right.
Okay. And we can't go into the detail. We could
Right.
be here for a week.
I know. Right. So if Scottsdale Tax Group LLC were to put on sort of a charity event, what would that charity be and why?
Well, if Scottsdale Tax Group was to put on this event, my wife would be in charge.
That sounds good.
There you go.
What is
and,
her?
Well, and I agree with her. She's all about people and animals that can't help themselves, right? Because especially animals, you look at an animal in this heat, running around outside has absolutely no protection, right? And some of these shelters and stuff, that's her core thing. But the other would be, women and children that are homeless and
Right.
need support, right? So
Right.
mine would be directed towards that, and it's not just because of her. I'm saying that to be funny, but it's correct,
Right.
Because they can't help themselves, right? Maybe if I had a relative that had heart problems, I would look at Heart Institute or whatever. But I think they have plenty of people helping them.
Right.
It's all these small ones that
Right.
give
The
to
local
children,
ones,
right?
yeah.
So that would be where our
I'd love to do an interview for some local charities around here. So that's on my list. So maybe I'll have to pick one that your wife likes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We're all about supporting the local businesses. So what is one thing about your business or even yourself that most people don't know?
Probably, and I've thought about this a lot. We talked about this. I did a presentation to a small group the other day that I'm literally fourth generation Arizona. And if you count, that's in Arizona, and 4 generations ago was in the Mexico territory. It really wasn't Arizona. So I've always been here for my family. But actually, one more generation if you count, the pieces in New Mexico. So it'd be 5 since the territory split. So yeah, I've been here a long time. We have a lot of history. I have a lot of family here. That's probably it. I'm pretty
That's
proud.
rare. That's awesome.
I've watched this place change.
Oh, yes, in this area
Oh, my
especially.
gosh. Yeah, Scottsdale was literally
A small
a
town.
goat roper.
A one-horse town.
That's right. That's right. And everybody had horses. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
just,
I've been here that long.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Not as long as you. I came from California. But
I'm older than you.
yeah.
But the point is, all the gap in between the cities was there.
Right.
There's nothing now, right? I mean, it's all.
So do you ride horses? Speaking of ranches,
You know,
being here that long,
No,
really?
let me tell you, well, that's pretty simple. My dad thought horses were a waste of good hay.
What was the family business? What kept them in Arizona so long? Because most families that I think have been here a long time have been ranchers.
Well, my earliest relatives were farmers ranchers. Okay, from my grandfather and father and uncles and stuff were all in construction, and
Okay,
and what brought that was, well, this mass boom. Construction pays better than ranching. Ask any rancher, and the early dams along the Salt River. That's where my grandfather and he brought in my grandmother's dad, my great grandfather, both worked on those dams. Right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's
I'd love to learn more
that's
about that.
All this
Is that
stuff
what your
that-
presentation was about?
No, it wasn't about that. But no, my presentation was about saving taxes.
Well, thank you so much It's been great chatting with you and getting to know you a little better. Fascinating stories. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today to get to know Richard Oxford from Scottsdale Tax Group LLC. I'm Helen Montgomery with helenofhomes.com and West USA Realty. I have a website that is the Scottsdale Air Park community website that I promote local businesses, events, network with charities. And I would love to feature you on my website. If you know anybody who would like to be featured on the website, it's growing all the time. If you have any real estate questions, I'd love to talk to you. Same goes for you. We're all in this together, and we're kind of Scottsdale's still kind of a small town. And this area is growing and changing, but there are a lot of us who have been around here for a long time. And I think, getting to know the stories just makes it seem that much more of a family. So thanks so much. And if you want to reach me, my number is 602-463-2809. And my email is helen@helenofhomes.com. Have a great day.
Thank you.